John Sunderland, July 18th, 1975.
But really, I think you're going to help me more than I can help you.
Oh, I brought some of my cards in. I thought, well, if you ask me anything, I can't remember anything. I have to look up everything in my cards.
Yeah.
Who is your great-grandfather?
My great-grandfather was James, and he is the one that most of this material belongs to. And of course, his son was Winfield Scott, and then my father was Walter Ellis. Let's see, Oliver Nichols turned cow and pasture July the 1st, and past 4 months at $1 per month. Oliver makes something for a house in 1889.
Oh, $1 a month doesn't seem so cheap for a pasture.
This is pretty current. Let's see what time February 11th worked one day and he got $1. February 12th worked Monday and got $1. March the 14th, Oliver Nickel $1. March the 15th, March the 18th. It is amazing, of all these, we could really put the stories together.
What you'd find out. I'm having trouble with your family because it was a large family that kept marrying the Johnsons and Welleses and people like that, and each generation is named the same as each other generation.
Well, what happens is that when they did the courting, they didn't go for it, they just climbed fences.
I think that's it, because
that's why
I find the people on the other side of the township all married people on the other side, and I know very little about the people on this side of the township, because these are the people I know best and talk to more, and so I don't know much about the people over here.
Oh, yes, of course, the boards were tied in. That's Johnny K. He married Dilla Sunderland. That's his personal property tax in, when was it? Oh, 1896.
It's great that you save that stuff. So many people just get rid of all that stuff.
Oh,
And then
well,
they just,
we were very fortunate in that James was a very astute businessman, and he was educated in the Butler system, where some of my other ancestors go back and, if they were illiterate, for example, here is the original land grant signed by Madison.
I'm afraid about putting things down on this table.
I suspect very much that the family was here before then, and if I went to work, I could come.
Okay, well, I can tell you where your family came from now.
I don't know where they came from, Washington Township.
Yeah, they were burned out twice.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Now, that information is where? I've heard it and read it.
Okay, I can tell you where it came from now. Well, they entered 160 acres in Washington Township.
Was that what they had, 160?
Richard and two brothers must have been Peter and John.
Well, there
Or
was...
Richard, Peter, and William, I think that's what it is. Previously, in 1804, each entered 160 acres in Washington Township, were twice burned out. They were from Pennsylvania. Richard married Nancy Martin. William and Elizabeth were twins of theirs. And of them, Elizabeth married Isaac Miller, and William married
is that right?
the daughter of James Miller.
Well, that's information because, of course, Elizabeth is right here in our backyard, and Isaac also.
Uh-huh. Okay,
Well,
okay, Richard and Nancy Martin were both buried on the farm, but they were moved to a Miami County cemetery later.
Yeah, I have the receipt for the monument of when it was moved.
When it was
I can
moved.
tell you when they were moved.
Oh, how neat.
Because you paid, let's see. I just ran onto that a minute ago. Here it is, and unfortunately it's got 4th, 1883, and it was for 1 granite monument and 8 granite markers, $690.
Gee whiz, that's expensive. And now there must have been, the rest of the
650.
family must have been there if they're gonna have 8 markers also.
Oh, well now you see, that I am fortunate from this standpoint that
What
I
does it
can go
mean?
back
Which monument can I see?
and tell you and show you the graves of my, let's see, my great grandfather.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
But that's all I know, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't, we only moved here in 1950.
Mhm.
My father's family, we were all born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. My father left the farm here about, I would guess, well, around 1900s.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I was the first one to move back up. However, my great-grandmother lived here until she died, which was, I think, probably her card book.
I may not have it.
Mary Sunderland, that would be James Sunderland's wife.
Okay, start me out as far back as you know in your grandparents, so I know which end of the family you come from.
Well, let's see. I can show you the marriage certificate of my 6th great-grandfather in 1726.
Here's Evans. That's really far back there. Well, William and Richard Sunderland were taxed in Dayton Township in 1798. Each of them
Yeah.
paid
Now
75 cents. So we got that.
They were in Washington Township at that time. That's where they lived, and that's where they paid the taxes. Now here, let's see, 1728. This is Peter Sunderland and Catherine Holman. That's their marriage license, of course, and actually it's all in.
It's an act to prevent clandestine marriages.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, he
Peter?
could write. Yes,
Peter
that's Peter
Sunderland?
Sunderland. Now, he
Really?
could write. However, his son Peter, who is the line that I came down, he was one of 4 boys, and the true family name is Spencer.
Instead of Sunderland.
Yes, but
That's
his father,
That's a far change.
his father was Robert Spencer, and he was the first Earl of Sunderland, and his firstborn inherited, so the other 4 boys did not inherit, and they came to America.
I see. And they just used the name Sunderland then when they got here.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
that's how the name started,
Uh-huh.
and of course, as you know, in England, there is the town of Sunderland, and Rita lives there.
Have you really?
Yes, it doesn't amount to much. But, and I haven't spent the time I should spend there on the
Mhm.
Spencer family, but of course, this is pretty far from this, but of course, as you know, Churchill, mother was a Spencer, it came down
Yeah.
to that Marlborough, but that's pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be kind of exciting to find out. Not that it could change your life any, but it still
Well,
would be kind of
when we
exciting
went
to
to,
find out.
Marlborough Palace, and of course, you know, I took a personal interest in
Yeah.
it.
Well, this is mine, you know?
But this is amazing that we have been
That
able to come up
long,
with that.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
in
Where did you find
Trenton,
this?
New Jersey, that's in the courthouse, in the records of Trenton, New Jersey. And then his son, by the way,
Okay, now this is Peter Sunderland. And is this the one that came over, or is this?
yes,
Okay.
that's right. He's one of 4 brothers, and of course, we never really followed the other 2 went south and were never heard of, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And one then stayed in New England. Of course, there are many, many towns with the name Sunderland in New England. I don't know whether you're aware of that or not.
No, I'm not.
Now let's see if I can
1728.
show you. No, I have to get that straight.
Okay, this deed says, James Madison, President of the United States, know ye that William Compton and Richard Sunderland, having deposited in the Treasury certificate of the Register of the Land Office at Cincinnati, whereby it appears that full payment has been made for fractional sections 13 and 14 of Township 3 and Range 6 line, east of the meridian line of the lands directed to be sold at Cincinnati, and so on. William Compton and Richard Sunderland, their heirs, signed forever as tenants in common and not as joint tenants. I wonder what the difference between joint tenants and tenants in common are.
Oh, they're joint tenants, and I have in here then in 1821 when they actually split up. And
I wondered when they
and
did.
each had their separate deeds. I know that's in here somewhere. I've seen it. It's one of the oldest documents in here. Unfortunately, this hasn't been given much care, as you can see.
This is the 20th of October, 1812.
But you see, I'm positive that they had to live here long before that was
I'm sure there's a nail over it.
yeah, there is one, but you'll have problems.
Oh, there it is.
And you count a machine, but as some leaves, it's getting lighter and lighter.
Yes, it is.
But what do you do?
Yeah, you know,
You
maybe,
fold it up
maybe,
and
maybe,
store it in a place like
yeah,
this?
maybe if you put kind of a tinted glass on it or something, you could keep it from bleaching out.
Well,
Then you couldn't see it very well, though, either.
I'm searching for oh, here we are. Now, you mentioned Richard's brothers
Yes.
and sisters. You said Elizabeth
I don't know what I said.
and William. Now, also, he had a brother, Di, and Di had the first established home in Allen County. Now, this says the site of the 86-acre homestead of Di Sunderland, who served in Captain Samuel McCormick's company of the War of 1812. Here in 1820, on the site of the Indian town of Tawa, the Sunderland families established the first permanent home in Allen County, Ohio. Now, he was the son of Peter, and Peter went up and lived with him. He lived with Richard apparently in Centerville, or in the Washington Township area, and then moved on up. Now, I got a better one of that. Now, it says, Peter Sunderland, a Revolutionary soldier, fought at Bunker Hill, died August the 1st, 1827, aged 90. See, so he was born in 1737.
Yeah.
The other Peter, his father, was married in 1728.
Uh-huh.
And now if you notice that both wives' name was Catherine,
Yes.
and this had caused some confusion, so that's why I went up and actually,
Saw the difference, yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh. Hey, now where is this cemetery?
this is at Fort Amanda in Allen County. And of course up there are, now that is, let's see,
Got it.
that's his son, Di, married Mercy. And that's the real close one, same cemetery. Then, his son was James. Now, I have to find a distant cousin and find out why they added. My mother was real upset because there had been an addition made on this tombstone.
James Sunderland?
Yes. Now, whether that was supposed to be a correction today, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, I have to find out. And this is the most unusual thing in that Jane Sunderland had a daughter, Mary Etta Sunderland Harbison, who was my grandmother. You follow me? I come from
Okay.
Peter Sunderland on both sides.
Yeah.
This is my mother's mother. My mother was a Harbison.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And what happens is that she met my father at a Sunderland reunion on this property,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know, I imagine about, I would guess about 1897, the mother's
Uh-huh.
and my father was 10 years older than she, and he said he would wait till she become old enough, and they were married then. I think my mother was 18. So they were married about 1902 or 3.
For heaven's sakes, now let's see. Let me get the
I'll go
relationship
back the
here.
other way.
Okay.
This is Peter Sunderland,
Uh-huh.
and he had a son, Dolly, and Richard. Richard is where I came down.
Okay.
Richard, that's the one on there.
Okay.
Di is the one that was in Allen County. Now, on Di's side, he had a son, James. We had a daughter, Mary. My mother's mother.
And she married a Harbison. Mary married a Harbison.
That's right.
Okay.
And then my mother married a Sunderland, and that's where we come back. Where
Okay.
down the other side, it goes Peter, Richard, William, James, Winfield Scott, and then my father, Walter Ellis.
Okay.
So,
You really got it down pat. Most people don't have that down.
well, I tell you, the advantage is right there where that monument is. James took his direct descendants, all of them, out of here,
Put them together.
and put them all in the one, and there's one plot left, which isn't for my mother.
Uh-huh.
Now, also up there is Johnny K. Boer. And the reason he's there is because Della was a Della Sunderland, who was a daughter of James. That's the James on my side.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
And
if we
then-
wouldn't all name the people the
Yeah.
same things, we'd have a lot easier
Yeah.
time.
Well, but of course, now,
This.
this, I'm not sure whether this is, I don't think this is the one. This is, that doesn't either. There, not Francis. William. This Daniel Sunderland was what so through the family they called Wild Dan. He lived with the Indians most of his life, and of course he died 36 years old. So however, he probably had a very full life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is that? 1841. I would guess.
41, yeah. That,
Yeah, I think that's what it
over
is.
there, yeah.
I will have to go back and the ones that, and the others I have not identified. I could identify because it's on the other side. That's Mary White either. But, and that's Francis, and we have a Francis on our side also.
Mhm.
I say on my father's side. And that's William. Now, see, you mentioned William, and that kind of shakes me up. I should go down to that cemetery down in Centerville and find, I wasn't aware of,
I may
of
have
William and
another,
Elizabeth. see.
Okay, I may have another generation here, so let me check. I may have switched generations on me here. Now, and then some of these things aren't accurate. You know, I'm taking them from,
Oh, well,
you know, some of these, because I have a lot of things from two different sources that don't go together right.
Well, because it means,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, here's a James, born in 1823, and he's the son of William and Margaret Miller Sunderland.
Right, outside, that's the James College that belongs to.
Okay. And he married Mary Wells in 1828. How could he marry? Oh, she was born in 1828. Daughter of Samuel and Mary Johnson Wells, and lived on the three-generation homestead. And
the writer of this was thinking it was so odd, 3 generations had lived together on this homestead. He was a Republican.
And that was William, you say?
And that's James, son of William and Margaret Miller Sunderland.
Oh, all right. James, William, Richard, yeah, okay.
And now I have in 1806, Richard Sunderland and William Compton had 707 acres. Richard and 2 brothers previously, in 1804, each entered 160 acres in Washington Township, were twice burned out. From
3 brothers?
2 brothers.
2 brothers.
Uh-huh.
And I suppose that could have been, I don't know whether that's die or not.
And
You said William and Elizabeth?
no, I don't. Now let's see. They're from Pennsylvania again. It says now Richard married Nancy Martin,
Yes.
and their children were William and Elizabeth, who were twins.
William and Elizabeth were twins, all right.
That Elizabeth married Isaac Miller. The father is living in the east part of this township. And William married the daughter of James Miller and had 6 children. You know, I think the thing we ought to do is
That
just
could be-
write it all out so
Yeah,
we see it in front
Yeah,
of us,
I
you
at
know?
one time did that. In fact, I was 29 and I had to go to bed for 6 months. I come down to TV.
Mhm.
And at that time, I took interest in the genealogy of the family, and I had it all written down. And you know,
You can't
I
find it.
don't know where it is. My wife was saying, well, you know, somewhere around. But I did. I went. In fact, I went to Dilla. Dilla Gore was still alive at that time. I talked to her, and she helped me a great deal. However, I think as you get older, you can put it all together. I'm a little too young. Really.
Uh-huh. Well, what I did, anytime I come across a Sunderland name or any name I was familiar with here in the township, I just copy down whatever there was about it. And so this isn't really cohesive at all.
Yes.
I haven't, it just, wherever I found anything, I would write it down. Let's see. Here's Richard Sunderland, brother of James, born in Butler Township, 1818, so they were already here. Or James, let's see who James. James is the son of William and William, evidently. Because James was born in 1823. Richard.
You see, William Sunderland, and there was another Richard Sunderland, and they were twins.
They were twins. Okay, now we did talk about some twins over
Yeah,
there.
there were twins. But
Well,
that-
William and Elizabeth were twins. Of course, if you have
Yeah.
twins in the family, you can have them any place, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly confused, I must say. It said he remained on family farm until of age and rented 80 acres until 1866, so this was fairly late. In 1879, he built a home for $3,000. He married Eleanor Reed, and then after she died, he married Nancy Wells and had 8 children.
Okay, now that is the next farm, see. That would be, say, in 1866, is something right?
He rented until 1866, and then bought 30 acres for $1,000, and now has 300 acres. And in 1879, he built a home for $3,000. 1839. No, that's probably her birth date. He married Eleanor Reed, I guess was born March 25th, 1839, died 1855. And then he married Nancy Wells in 1856, just a year after. Didn't let much time lapse, did he?
Well, no, the time's even getting shorter now.
Yeah, yeah, well, this is true. But then they've got them staked out early,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you seen the maps, the 1850 map and the
No, I
1875?
want to.
Do you want? I've got them in the car if you want to see them.
Oh, I'd love to. Let's see.
How's that? Okay, that's 1870s.
Yes, I have that.
Here's 1851. And here's one that I filled in when people originally entered the land.
Just the one that got here, something like that. First one before the
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, they had told me they had dug a cistern. They didn't know.
Oh, and they-
Dry cistern, and they didn't know.
They put people down to keep them?
Well, they didn't have the jail built yet. And then my son tells me, after he got out of this creek, didn't he, the same guy, got in another fight, to the same guy, and was fine. My son's an attorney here in town.
Yeah. I think we've met once too. You ran into my mailbox.
Oh, yes. Well, certainly now I know where you are. Yeah. Okay. Hey, and you never did get it fixed.
Well, it's always been a little lopsided.
Yeah, but the door, I go
Well,
by there and I think, well, I really
That
ought to-
wasn't you. It was just that the little thing was loose, and I kept sending the kids out to fix it. Nobody ever fixed it.
Their home is right down here at Brown School and
New
Seventh.
Highway, yeah. Yeah, that's a gorgeous home.
Yeah, yeah. I've never been.
I go to school past that almost every day, and I just never fail to look at it. Yes, I have. Now, most of the things he had about Vandalia, well, and I am primarily interested in more the township, or what was the township. He was, knows most about Vandalia.
Yeah.
The Millers, I
No,
have
that's
trouble
not Isaac.
finding.
Now, I tell you what. That's J. Miller, and you're asking about Isaac Miller. And I think, I'm not
Some
sure.
of the Millers
You
were
show-
over here,
You show
too.
any property at all with Isaac Miller? I think he is the one that actually married and lived on the farm. Entire life.
It's, a lot of my information is on Wayne Township Millers, because was it, this part of the township was Randolph, and this part was Wayne until 1817. And so when we're looking it up, we have to look at Wayne Townships, and we have to look at things on the Randolph Township, because we didn't even have a Butler Township. It split right at the, well, now you can tell, look at, you get 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is where it's split. Right up this creek. And,
Now, I see here, this map here shows Andrew Renner.
and now this is, the one that it's written on is the 1875. You have 2 farms.
That's the deed. And we went to Brenice.
wanted to have any excuse
My mother
whatsoever.
told me, and this was years ago, that they had gold doorknobs. Of course, that impressed me as a child, but
They
I'm sure
probably
they
was
were gold
brass.
plated.
Yeah.
Well, they could have been brass, yeah, but they were probably invested in the porcelain. Yeah, but when do you,
No one seems to know who did it. We did find a deed that said that this Western over here reserved the right to go into the burying ground. So there have to be Westerns in there, or else why would they want to go? Yeah. But we haven't, found anything else about it.
now you got to remember, there's the British timbers that you're talking about, finally bought, what, you said 1866 or something?
Yeah.
And that's probably his land there then.
Well, these are people who originally entered into the land. Well, we don't have those original records here. They're all in Columbus, and I can't get a copy, and I might have tried, but they won't give me a copy of it. And I would like them, we have them from 1810 in our recorder's office.
I thought the John Bull.
July 18. What's the matter? I just swallowed. I had a little trouble writing, didn't I? I don't think I have anything about the swallows after they entered their land. They were mixed up with a barn somewhere along the line. Oh, I want to make sure I had that Walter Crook. I have the deed here that, or he bought land right next to Tadmore, or in Tadmore.
And he bought it from Andrew Zink.
Yeah, bought it from Andrew Zink, and James Sunderland had the deed. Who's sitting this one? What swallow was that?
Daniel, wasn't it?
Daniel, yeah. I only had children, James, John, Samson, Cynthia, Belinda, Catherine, Priscilla. But now that may have been, this was in, they came in 1807, so this is
Oh,
probably the
18
grandchildren
Sure,
of his.
this,
of
because this
his,
is
yeah.
1870.
Yeah, this is the grandchildren.
Hello.
Hello?
Gina, do you know Mrs. Lewis?
I don't think we have yet. Hello. I bet you are. It's really coming out down, isn't it? You know, on my way over here, it looked so black, and it was already raining, just as black can be. And I listened to the weather report, and they said may have light showers.
Oh.
You know, and it just looked like it was just going to open up any second.
No, I wouldn't bother with anything like that.
And
Hmm?
ash,
Ash.
which
See,
probably
it's
sugar
so-
maple. Yeah.
Number of trees were turning so. We still had virgin timber on here in 1940. One of our woods back
Oh,
over
did you
there.
really?
Yeah.
Probably the beaches we have in our front yard are probably virgin timber too. We don't find too much of that. Just how to make a four-side fence.
Let's see. Yeah.
not enough. There's taxes in there. Look at that rate. Well, somewhere.
Oh, yes. Dad went to the commercial college, of course. John Combs, Crnes. Now, he's paid house rent here to James Sunderland. I bet he lived in the little house in back of the farmhouse, that was the original.
Oh,
one of the
really?
original houses.
The Mutual Fire Association.
Yes, they got several of those, and I don't
I
understand
wonder
them.
if they had,
And
they paid money for
but
fire.
but it's Miami. Well, now, of course, this says where else?
This is
Charleston,
Fulton.
West Charlton.
This is Fulton.
Oh, the second one.
Police find statement of losses for the year ending.
Well, these are people that had fires, and you don't find out
Well,
the
maybe,
fires
you
that
know,
year?
yeah, maybe this is, for insurance.
Well, yeah, I think this
Yeah.
is their insurance. Now, let's see here. He paid $8.45. That was his assessment.
$9.10.
Now, what was
in
the number of that
1898.
assessment? This is assessment number 22.
23.
All right, now you can find out
Who
who had fire.
fires? I hear that, the Stoner farm at one time had a great big barn and it burned. And the way they fought the fires in that time was that they would start ringing the dinner bell. And the next farmer over would hear the dinner bell ringing a long time, and he'd start ringing his. And each one that heard it would start ringing, and they'd all grab their buckets and they'd go over where they thought this fire was. But this time, they burned to the ground. They thought they'd lost all their horses in it. But on the wet ground around it, they found tracks of some of their ponies. And it turned out that thieves had stolen these horses
Set the barn on
and had
fire.
set the barn on fire. Well, they didn't find this out till the next day. So they all the neighbors got together, got on the horses, and they started following these tracks, and they got down to someplace north of Cincinnati. And they thought the man's name was Red Jackson, and no relation to Bar Jackson's hero in this. And they found that in his career, he had shot a farmer at one time, stealing things, and the helmet was buried in front of his home. Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Here I see a cow was lost by lightning, worth $30. A horse was also hit by lightning.
It's George and Mary Sheets. I look over on the little grid. There's the Sheets.
Would you like a cup of coffee?
Well, I'm putting some tea. I offered a cup of tea and then never got around to making it.
Well, I noticed
I
it was
forgot all
on.
that in all truth.
It was, when I came in,
It makes no difference. I drink them both and enjoy them both. Whatever's handiest. Okay, tell me what a husband is.
Somebody lost a husband?
Sounds like, oh no, wait, it's Susie A. Weatherhead and husband. So she must pay the bills. Damage to, I thought she'd lost a husband and she was putting in $15 for him. Isn't it funny? Why would they say the wife and husband like that? Because usually the women didn't have anything.
Well, it doesn't look like you're going to play much golf today.
Here's Phoebe Holderman, and she's a Patty. The first family I looked into was a Patty family, and I feel that they belong to me.
P-A-T-T-Y?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, I think you'll find, I think we've got some patties out here.
Yeah.
A bit of a tie-in.
If you have a preference,
Oh, not really. There's somebody from the county of Madison, Kansas, too. Please.
I don't want to disturb anything. It might be
Put this on here,
precious.
let me put this on here so it doesn't make the table too hot.
Apparently my great-grandfather was a little concerned about his car insurance, and says that we'll get it, been delayed. This might, these little publications might tell us something, right? And this is number 24.
Here's James Swallow when he was Justice of the Peace, and he was Justice of the Peace like alternately with Davis Waymeyer, I think, for years.
Swallow, is it?
Swallow, James Swallow.
Yeah.
And this is in 1860. Do you have Dora Brentlinger's book?
No, I want to get that. Here's
She's
James
got a
Swallow.
list of them. Dora's got a great book, except that she hasn't footnoted anything.
End of date, another deed. Swallow, and,
1868.
There's a couple deeds you might be interested in. I don't know who they are. There's Patty and, Holdeman. Just saying, it's not, Allspaw. There's another one.
Oh, please, there was a daughter, Aunt Martha, who went to, no, she never went. I got so frustrated with one of these things, with the degrees and the chains and so, this kind of thing, that I took it down to Dick Bechtel and had him draw it out for me. Because I just couldn't, I was going the wrong direction all the time. When it says something north, I would go north and it doesn't mean that, it means degrees north or something like that. And I just couldn't come out right with it.
Now, did you have all of this before you came over here?
Oh, she got card file after card file. Who do you want to know about you, Gina?
Well, I just wanted to know exactly what year Richard Sunderland came to Butler Township.
She says 1804, because she got the records where they were burnt out.
Well,
I've
now
always
this is
wondered
stuff
about
that I have just gotten from different books.
Mhm.
There'll be just a line here and a line
Line
there, and I'll just copy down everything I see on any of the people that I am
Mhm.
interested in finding. And there's one here that says they were burned out. Okay. Richard and his two brothers, previously in 1804, each entered 160 acres in Washington Township, and then they were burned out. And in 1806, Richard Sunderland and William Compton came. Yeah, I would guess, but now this one says later.
Do you suppose they could have come here then, and the land grant not creation?
Oh, yeah, because they lived.
because they land grant
they-
did well, didn't it?
Yeah, they lived for years. In fact, a lot of them just lived until they were afraid that if somebody else entered that land that they had cleared and built
Yeah,
on,
they had-
that would belong to them. So they had to just make sure they got it entered before somebody else did. And so a lot of them lived on it for
Gina,
years.
Very interesting. Richard had a sister and a brother that were twins, William and Elizabeth. And the Elizabeth was right out here. She
No, wait, that's a son, I guess. Son and daughters. Richard and Nancy Martin married Nancy Martin, who died in 1846. Their children are William and Elizabeth. Elizabeth married Isaac Miller, and I guess he's buried out here, so. And then William married the daughter of James Miller.
And William had to be the W.W. Sunderland branch south of town.
Uh-huh.
But I see,
And of course, this, our name, you know, John's probably told you we have a granddaughter named
Nancy. Well, of course, we've done the same, every family does the same thing. Our family name was Irene, and I've got it, and my mother's got it, and my grandmother's got it, and my great-grandmother's got it, and my daughter doesn't have it.
see that,
I've despised Irene my whole life.
Yes, uh-huh.
Why couldn't it have been something beautiful?
No, of course, I love Nancy.
I do
Nancy
too.
is lovely.
I do too. I like that.
Well, the first time we took her to Tip City and she saw this tombstone which said Nancy somewhere, John said, read it, and her eyes were as big as saucers. and
Yes,
she
I
looked up at her
bet.
grandpa.
I bet. I wonder if I bet John Patty married a Josephine. I have to look that up, and I think it's in that register.
oh, here's someone, you see, what happened is with the attraction of the falls, when my grandfather had this big wood pack they called the picnic wood. And here's a letter from the church in Dayton asking, I think, for permission to have a picnic there. And this is dated 1895. A small party of young members of our church here in Dayton wish to have a sociable outing July the 4th, 1895, and they wish to secure a suitable place. Mr. Brown, agent for the CH&D and the D&M Railroad, has put to him about an outing. I mentioned that we would very much like to spend the day at your falls. He advises me to your concerning this matter, and he also stated that he was confident that you would be willing to have something a day outing at your falls without any charge for the same. So I plan to write to see you personally. I'm a member of the German Evangelical Church, Central Street, also president of the Young People Society of our church. I assure you for the best confidence
Yes.
ever.
Nothing rowdy.
No
will
hanky
be-
panky.
It would be a nice Christian group of young people. Nothing intoxicating will be had about us.
We're gonna have a beer blast.
The best behavior, no tearing down of fences or anything that may injure anything of yours or something, anyone else's. We wish to make an outing as expenseless as possible, having a nice outing as Christians. Those who make your faithfully rely within 3 days will make friend and brother in Christ our Lord. William H. Pratt. Sorry.
It sounds kind of bad, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Find enclosed a 2-cent stamp, envelope and writing paper for your return mail.
John, I see on this, paper here, Senator James.
Yeah, I want that over with the monument.
William Wells and H.H. Castle.
And Bodine too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they're all there.
There's a real script. Some people in Illinois.
Well, these would be relatives, I'm sure.
There's Mr. John Holderman and Morris in Arizona.
Oh, yes, yeah, they're relatives. I've heard them speak of the, in fact, they went and had a reunion there one year in Missouri. Yeah, so good. Everything worked out. There's more Eli Thompson.
Have you ever heard of any stories about the Underground Railroad?
No.
But I want you to have heard some stories.
Okay,
about
so-
it. I know that we had a Josiah Hutchins up in Miami County who was listed as one of the people. I have rumors of people. I have no two sources who will say the same thing about any one thing, so I can't use anything until I can, I can't corroborate it any way. And Josiah Hutchins up there is a son of one of our Hutchins down here.
Oh, really?
And the blacks used to come up the canal and they'd hide them in the baggage area, you know, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the route was through Ludlow Falls, and there was another one through West Milton. And most of them were Quakers. And it would seem likely that the people over on that side of the township were involved in it, because they were also Quakers, and they went to church with these people.
Mhm.
But I can't look them up, and I'm frustrated.
Dora doesn't know. Dora knows quite a bit, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. Now, in her book, though, she didn't footnote anything she has, and so I really can't use anything that she's got in there,
Mhm.
because I keep finding her sources, but I can't find, where she got any of it, because she mixes hearsay with
Oh, does
sources
she?
and this kind of thing, so I can't really use it, because she has a fantastic amount of
Andrew
information.
Clemens, anything on Andrew Clemens?
Mm-mm.
Well, he worked on
Usually the people that you can find something about are the landowners, because most of these histories they had to pay to get into. And it's only the people who were fairly wealthy who would pay to get their family, who would pay to get their family in.
All they left with their
Mhm.
sweat. The last one. Frank Staley.
And of course, none of these things ever say anything derogatory about, you think
Yeah.
everybody was a fine, upstanding Christian
Yeah,
who
but
loved
you said
everybody.
there were more lawsuits back and forth.
Yeah, but according to what they say about themselves, they're really neat.
Well, of course, that's the only way they could sell a book.
Yeah, well, yeah, they had to get the money for it, and they
Right.
put all these people in there.
You know, it'd be fun sometime if Dave had in a time, which he will never have, to try to research some of this, like
Why
the
don't you
story
do
of,
it?
of Peter Sunderland. Or was it Peter who was jailed for drunkenness or something?
Well, yeah, that's already recorded.
Is it?
Executive receipts.
1902.
John, there isn't anything here, mostly everything was, it would have been under Richard and James. There was nothing under Winfield Scott, was it?
There
Well,
was-
other than he did have an estate.
He did.
Yeah, we have recordings here where James filed with the court every year as to his expenses to deduct from the estate.
Oh, I see.
So he owned land. Winfield had some land.
Okay, here's Walter E. Sunderland and the money he received for Lewis and Sundry things, or railroad ticket, 1893. For school fund at Dayton, $30. $4 for a ticket to go to school in Dayton, so he must have gone to school there
Oh,
regularly.
John, he went to a business school in
Mom
Dayton.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it. We got the information
Mhm.
here where they,
Well, he kept all of that, you know.
Isn't it?
I throw out everything.
all right, you want to sign something, you want something old, about 1819.
Are you kidding?
This is a field notes, William Compton and Richard Sunderland, and they didn't put the D on, and they did that quite often.
Yeah, I saw that. I've seen that.
And if
March
I,
the 8th, 1819, commenced a survey west of the Great Miami River at the northwest corner of Fraction, Township 3, Range 6, apart. I think it's Witness, the Poplar, 40 something or other. Bears North, 65, 47 lengths, another 36. Lengths hence, I can't see. Then it goes down southwest corner of Richard Sunderland's land. And west to a hickory.
Hickory tree probably.
Yeah. And then it goes on another Buckeye corner. Bank of the river. Up the river with the meanders.
With the meanders.
Yes. Due north. To the northeast corner of South Fraction.
living something. And a white ash. Back to the place beginning survey for Richard Sunderland. It's either 4.05 or 405 acres. I would like to find the field notes for the surveyors who surveyed this to begin with.
Oh.
And they are, I think they're in
Yeah,
Washington, but I think that's where they are, in National Archives. But you gotta know exactly what you want, I guess, if you go there. I've never been there, but they say if you know exactly what you want, you can get it out. Because I guess we're all, we can all get things out of that library, but it's all in the stacks, and you have to order it out.
It seems that Williams, in 54, bought some land in Shelby County from Joseph Holmes. There's a warning you on that.
William James and Richard was Williams. Is that right? I always have to go through this.
Whereas he said that the youngest one Williams.
Maybe it was a coin.
John, I was
Then
thinking,
the content of this here was 405 acres in land. That would have been in 18.
John, I think this is interesting. It's William and Elizabeth twins. Do you wonder if it came down?
Oh, yeah, then remember Richard, not Richard.
Somebody else said.
William Richard.
And Jimmy was John's nephew, his
Uh-huh.
twins.
It really goes down then, doesn't it?
And well, you just wonder.
Here's a mortgage deed for James Sunderland wife to Daniel W. Culverman.
What's the date?
Well, this is, that's the December.
Yeah.
58.
They've got a JH. No, it's 50 though.
Presence of James O. Swallow.
They paid him for each of those, he
Hey,
did it
wait a
wrong.
minute. And this is signed by Richard Sunderland, and he couldn't write. Oh, this is the other Richard. Yeah,
Land
this
Sunderland.
would have been his son. No, his uncle.
Did
It
you,
would be the other Richard.
John, did you tell Mrs. Lewis about the marriage license you had
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
couple, I saw.
fixed for Dave?
And then I also ran the Peter Sunderland. So that's what I'm starting to
Here's a
record
map.
now.
Richard Sunderland.
Well, now, that's the deed then of the split. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
that
when they
21,
split.
1821?
1836. Divided May 23rd, 1836.
Oh, I got it mistaken in the date. But that's when they finally split. I suppose they got into lots of legal problems.
I would think, well, now, what is it? They said it wasn't joint tenancy, it was tenancy in common or something like that on the other thing? There's something different anyway. Actually, by the time they entered that land, they could buy half sections. I don't know why they didn't just buy a half section to begin with, because the early ones had to buy a whole section at home. And then by that time, they could buy only a half section, so it seems funny that they got together and because they couldn't decide who was going to get which part.
Whatever happened with William Compton's?
Why, Richard Sunderland bought that of the other branch. Yeah, it's on the map. Later on, he bought that.
You have a copy of that marriage license, don't you? sure the picture.
This one right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday.
By the way, you noticed his mark? I'm sure on the one you're reading now, Mrs. Bush, the one you have there in the Richard Sunderland mark.
Oh, let's see. No. There's nothing signed. What I found is so many of the women couldn't write. The men would sign their
Sign.
names, and the women would just have to, they just say her mark, and.
We thought this was very interesting. Peter Sunderland is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, well,
How awful it must be not to be
17.
able to write.
1728.
Yeah.
To stay alive and need to have enough food.
Yesterday I was reading the deed for the section of Polk Road there were right along National Road. And part of it was, they can't cut down any trees without any good reason, and they can't do it, and I noticed they're extending their driveway now up there, and they've gone around the trees, and I'm wondering if they know that they can't cut down any of those trees.
And they can't charge for any burial either.
Oh, was that soon?
And if you read that, I happen to know that someone has been reviewing that deed just recently.
Uh-huh.
And
No, that isn't the same deed. I was just reading for this additional little section that, see, a Waymeyer Press.
tell you, as soon as I get the book, there is a book out, which I've been trying to get.
Now, this is just what one source who's Conover, Charlotte Reed Conover, said, yeah. Now, there's another Conover, which is a father or a brother or something else of hers.
John, what is that book? I mean, that's going back to the
That's
English.
Robert Spencer. There was
Oh,
something
yeah.
by J.B. Keenan. I just ran onto that.
Oh,
just
that would
last
be
month.
interesting to get.
Keenan. This particular, here's a receipt. The newspapers.
This is-
Steve's.
This is
great-
very interesting.
Yeah, I told her about it.
Vicar.
Yes, daughter.
John, we should keep this out to show to Cass.
Well, here's a couple of them. Back up.
There's a whole sheaf of them over here for the years.
Because Cass and Amelia Vickham would, you
Well,
know,
that's their grandfather.
it's their grandfather, they'd get a great kick out of seeing this. We'll hold these out to show to them.
See, they used every bit of paper, they figured, paper
Yeah.
must have been quite scarce,
Yeah,
really.
it had to be.
I noticed it on.
I need a type of minute here or something.
Well, you do.
It's kind of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got a granddaughter that loves to read, she says. And Gracie would like this.
Rachel was all right, yes. Show to the gal.
Goodness knows where everything goes.
John, did all this come out of Old State?
William Evans. Came from Kentucky, evidently, because his brother was down there. I think I have an Evans here, but he's writing from Tip City. And I know I have, there's an Evans in the township, I have to find him down.
John, this one's interesting. Kelsey Lawton and Company.
James Sunderland. Permitted taxes for the years 1892, 93, 94, 95, 1996.
Caught up with it.
They sure did.
Yeah.
We paid $149.71.
His great grandson didn't pay his, so I started putting on the computer, and I decided it's
Time to pay it, huh?
uh,
Now, here's the Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Railway Company, and it's signed by Walter Crook.
yeah, now, you know,
25
Walter
cents.
Crooks was a fighter in the,
No, his brother was General George Crook, who was an Indian fighter in the West. In lots of old Western movies, you hear his name, General Crook is such and such, and this kind of thing. He also had a brother who was a captain in the Civil War, and this is Walter, who was a postmaster and had a warehouse at Tadmore.
Oh, really?
And they were born in the house up on Rip Rap Road, just above the canal. You can see where the ditch is. And the barn, I think, is still standing.
Say, I think this is fascinating, this paint chart. And today, you would look at these colors and you'd say, oh, the Williamsburg colors.
Oh, yeah, look at those. They are about the same as that.
You know, it'd be interesting to frame.
There's a house on Frederick Road, the old Sinks house. They've just painted part of it about that color. That must be outside paint, too. Oh, look at that.
That would be, I
well,
think, kind of
you won't
interesting
believe
frame.
this.
Brilliant red, gray stone, fountain
more like
red.
ours.
Yeah. Gee, that's neat.
When was the World's Fair? James, oh wait, I can tell you because he got his secret. James in '93. James went to the World Fair and he stayed, and here are the,
Chicago's?
Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and he went by CH&D, here's his ticket. Here's his receipts by J.H. Silver where he stayed, and this was on June 23rd, paid $10. Room and board, $10 for 23rd, 26th, and 28th. Here's his ticket. Passenger check, he was on the Elwood car from Troy to Chicago. There's his railroad ticket, and he saved the whole, look at that. He had a lower 6.
The Law and Order League of Butler Township. The post office. This is
Lenny's.
Yes, I bet it is.
But J.H. Silver, and here's J.H. Silver's card, and it says that can now secure large furnished front rooms in private residence, rates reasonable, at 2981 Cottage Grove Avenue, 10-minute drive to the fairground, everything first class. Oh, wait a minute, there's something written on the back. Oh, take Wabash Avenue and Cottage Grove Avenue cars and ride to 30th Street. House is on the northeast corner. No directions to how he found it. Get off at 31st Street in your
Say, I have for fun on this one. This.
I think that'd be neat. Yes.
Let's see, Dina.
Yes, it would.
Be very attractive. Maybe Ann and Dayton.
I think that's neat.
And notice here how they say the content works.
Okay. Constitution and bylaws of the Law and Order League of Butler Township, Spanker Post Office, Montgomery County, Ohio. Democrat Printing, Dayton, Ohio. Incorporated April 25th, 1887, under an act of the legislature entitled An Act to Punish Horse Thieves and Other Felons, passed March 15th, 1887. Declaration of Purpose. Whereas the committing of crime in this neighborhood has become such frequent occurrence, and perpetrators of the many acts of theft, robbery, and other crimes so often escape detection, that as law-abiding citizens in the exercise of the simple right of self-protection, we feel called upon in justice to ourselves as well as in duty to the public weal to make some organized action in aid of the enforcement of the laws. In pursuance of this object, we, the undersigned, hereby associate ourselves together under the Constitution and bylaws hereto appended for the purpose of aiding the officers of the law in arresting and bringing to punishment the perpetrators of crime in our community. This is really neat.
Why, you want to know about Elizabeth and Isaac Miller?
Yeah.
Well, here's where Richard Sunderland bought their land and William Sunderland's land. So Richard Sunderland and so forth, for the sum of $5,604, paid Elizabeth Miller and so forth. And here it is, and it's tracts
She must have been a widow.
belonging to Isaac Miller and William Sunderland. And again, 47.
Are these the one who bought it or sold it? Who bought it?
Bought it.
Who bought it? I believe she was married to Isaac? Or was it? Now, Isaac lived in a house, didn't he?
Oh, yes. He died in 69. There you go. Yeah, they said Isaac Williams.
Oh, this is the corner of the tract of land that Isaac Miller owns. It ends there. They must have owned a piece together, and he's
Oh.
buying one of their pieces from them, maybe, I suppose.
So he started at 93. He's down at east side of Station House, swimming.
Those and those of lands. The rest were under the great land. And to be amended to replace it again.
180 acres.
Maybe they owned it in common, and he's buying it, his front farm.
186 acres. 127. Purchase of all,
Yeah, purchasing this, I don't know.
more or less. This has to be the property line, that was the bottom line.
Well, Elizabeth owns it then. Isaac doesn't own this. Isaac and, the Sunderland own, where they started the count, owned the other land, and Sunderland is buying it from Elizabeth Miller. But he's not mentioned. I don't think. Now, let's see, I'm gonna go on with this. In proof of our sincerity in this declaration of purpose, we hereby solemnly pledge ourselves to faithfully obey and abide by all the rules, regulations, and orders of this association, and we promise to promptly respond to the call of the association or any member of it who may become a victim of crime, whether petty or great, and do all in our power to recover stolen property, or in any other way to rid them in their hour of need, and this we will do upon the honor of men, so help us God. Constitution. This association shall be known as the Law and Order League of Butler Township. Article 2. The former was Article 1. Article 2. The officers of this association shall be President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Corresponding Secretary, a Finance Committee of 3 members, an Executive Committee of 11 members, 3 trustees, 3 or more constables, all of whom shall be elected by ballot to serve for 1 year or until their successors are elected and installed. Article 3. The President, Secretary, and Treasurer with the Executive Committee shall constitute a council which shall have the power to act for and instead of the League in cases where a general meeting of the association is not practicable. Article 4. The time of holding the meeting shall be fixed by motion at the time of adjournment of the previous meeting or by call of the President, when in his judgment he deems it necessary, or upon the written request of 3 members. Article 5. Any article of this Constitution or any bylaw may be amended or abolished by a 2/3 vote of the members present at any meeting, provided that notice of such change shall have been given at some meeting previous to the one on which the vote thereon is taken. Provided further that such amendment must be read to the League at the time of giving such notice.
Article 6, 4 members of the council shall constitute a quorum in all cases where it should be impossible for any other time. Strike that. In all cases where it would be impossible for want of time to summons a majority. Article 7, 7 members shall be necessary for a quorum at any meeting of the league. Article 8, all claims against the league shall be paid upon the order of the Finance Committee. Article 9, the necessary expenses of this league shall be provided by an assessment upon the members' share and share alike, and it shall be the duty of the Finance Committee, when a majority of members thereof deem it necessary to levy such assessment, it shall be the duty of the Secretary of the League to collect the amount assessed and pay the same over to the Treasurer. Article 10, any member having been notified by the Secretary of the amount upon any assessment or any fine and failing to pay the same for 30 days from date of such notice shall by reason of such delinquency be deprived of exercising the privileges of a member until all arrearages are paid, and so on. I'm not going to go through all those. These are the bylaws. Article 1. Any member who shall tell to any person not a member of this association or reveal to such person anything that shall be said or done or decided upon at any meeting of this association shall for the first offense be reprimanded by the President. For the second offense shall be fined in any sum not exceeding $5, and for the third offense shall be expelled from the league without any benefits thereof of any kind. Article 2. Any member who shall refuse to perform any duty imposed upon him by the Constitution or bylaws shall be fined in any sum not exceeding $1, except when the league by a majority vote shall excuse the delinquency. Article 4. Any reward paid for the capture of a criminal to any member of this league and at his expense shall be turned over to the treasurer as the common property of all the members thereof. Article 5, any member who shall commit any misdemeanor or violate any of the criminal laws of this or any other state shall be expelled from the society on conviction thereafter. So they're not a lynching group anyway. They must just go around and apprehend their criminals. The meetings of the league shall be opened within 15 minutes of the specified time, provided there be a sufficient number present to form a quorum. Article 7, all members of this league are required to take in writing and keep a full and minute description of their horses, showing their age, color, height, gait, saddle, and collar, or other marks and blemishes. Article 8, it shall be the duty of the corresponding secretary to do the telegraphing for the league and to dispatch for the recovery of stolen property and detection of thieves. If he should be unable to attend it, he must deputize one member of the league to take his place. Well, you know, they must have had a real problem if they felt that they had to form an association.
Well,
It
I
must
just
have
like
been.
stealing your cars, you know, it was their means of transportation or something, we'll find rather old. It looks like Richardson bought out at least a portion, some 400 acres, in about 1819. So that, yeah, that would be about the time they split up.
That was 1812.
Patent bedrooms. Okay, it says since they got their land in 1812 from Madison. Okay, Richard Sunderland paid $806 and is entitled to his proportion of the fractional section of land. To 403 acres therein. Now this indenture made this 19th day of March in 1819 between William Compton and Richard Sunderland. For the consideration of $806 paid, which was paid to Richard Sunderland, who released and granted a quit claim. So they just divided up then.
That wasn't there too long after.
No, we really ought to put that with with that map, you know, we ought to
Yeah.
put that together with it.
$2 an acre now.
Yeah, basically.
Of course, that's what they paid
There
for
was
it from the
400.
government, in the government, that's what they paid for.
Oh,
Yeah. Session one.
In 1968, James had to pay to the United States Internal Revenue. You know, they discontinued that tax and it wasn't renewed until 13 coming for income tax.
In 1868, this was?
Yeah, of course, this would be after the date of the war. And here is, this, of course, this is his rough draft, I guess. He probably sent the other one in. And it looked, well, I don't know how it was. Oh, 5% plus tax would be, his assets, $22.97.
Oh, here's William Kennedy. He was the first justice of the peace elected after Butler Township split off from Randolph and Wayne.
Really?
Uh-huh, and that was, I believe, in 1817. Look it up. And, well, it couldn't be. When was this? Oh, this was 1819, wasn't it? And he is of the Kennedy family that is down there on the bottoms across from Frigidaire Park. Frigidaire Park used to be their land, and their house
Oh,
sits
yes.
right opposite that on Frederick
Oh,
Place.
that's very lovely
Uh-huh,
house with the
and
porch.
they're still living in their house. And, but William came up here a little farther and entered land in Butler Township.
John, what did you just find that you said, oh, something about, was it in the Internal Revenue?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Well, what happens, I just figured it out. He figured it out to where he didn't have to pay any tax. He had deductions. I-
He
from what I
figured it
looked at,
out, huh?
Yeah, it looked like he changed several figures, but
You gotta make it come
here
out
was the
right.
tax, 2290, but the tax when his deductions looked like 2297, is what he figured out. By
And you
erasing a
can
couple
see-
times
Look,
and,
it,
Yeah.
look where he's changed it.
Yes.
Say though, this is
Very fast.
interesting, you know it?
because people didn't
I mean,
realize they had income tax. or-
At that time.
Fine, yeah.
Have you seen one of these?
No, I had never, I didn't even realize we had one then.
I think that's interesting.
But he was honest with
You ever
right
have a
there.
fire,
There's some
take this
minutes.
with you.
We should really
Yeah, we should.
rent a safe deposit.
Oh, well.
Except you never
Frankly,
can
I'd
look
like
at
to
it.
lay everything out flat and put it
Yeah.
somewhere it can be pressed flat. But of course, you can't keep opening or you're gonna ruin them.
Look, had your wife any income last year? And look at, they assume that this is the man.
Uh-huh.
Had your wife instead of spouse, did your minor child and spouse?
By the way, did you see Patty Compton signed the other by her mark?
No, I didn't notice that.
But William Compton
But I like this.
signed his.
I think this is interesting.
Miami City? Or county, that's what it is. See, that's it. Maybe a abbreviation of county. Yeah, it does.
I like this up here. Carriages, gold watches, billiard tables, gold and silver plate.
Oh, good heavens.
Now you can see what.
Hey, you wanna know when they put the railroad through?
Yeah.
I did the right away.
Wow.
52.
Oh.
Miller and Sunderland.
Now, I have asked people, and they said, no, the interurban came through. And I read where the interurban came through
Well,
before
maybe
the
that
railroad
says
did.
railroad though.
But I just felt sure it was, the railroad had to be in before 19-something or other, when the,
Wouldn't be interurban, because they didn't have electric cars that early.
no, this couldn't have been.
No,
And I just felt this had to be there, because why would we have had Johnson Station? That
or
wasn't.
Tadmore.
Yeah, well, Johnson Station was down there on the railroad. Tadmore could have
wait a
been there for the,
Johnson Station was down about where the dam is.
where Little York is.
Was it that far down?
I think Johnson Station was when the railroad crossed Little York down there near the river.
All right. Okay, that's down.
And that's why the
And then
decision,
Tadmore was the
because
other stop.
the canal wasn't even down there, the canal was on the other side of the river by the time it got there. The canal crossed up here a little above Tadmore. Or below Tadmore.
So
Okay, this
there's
is
least evidence of the railroad, but it
Aiken
says
and
Miller and
Michigan
Sunderland.
Railroad, release of right-of-way. Fraction of section. This is 1836. Whoops, how can that be 36? Reference to a deed, reference to a deed is by Joseph Hollingsworth in August 1836. Sunderland and Miller Reserve, all something on the above right-of-way for and this wasn't signed. And it was February 1852 this went through. But it was never signed. And W. Caldwell, maybe.
Says past James Sunderland and somebody else
John Wenger.
through the lines. Now, I think that probably is when they were in the,
October 13th, 1862. Until, past James Sunderland and John Wenger through lines until tomorrow morning, October 13th, 1862.
so they got to leave from the military camp.
And it's signed by
One of the somebody.
John M. Caldwell, looks like Colonel Commandant Camp Denison. Now here are these 1879 cemetery lots.
Oh, is that cemetery
Well,
lot?
did you want to keep that separate?
That goes over here with this other.
Sorry.
Well, wait a minute, Camp Denison?
Yeah, I know where that is too.
I do too.
Camp Campbell is the one we had, isn't it? Yeah, and that was ours called.
This must have been some rather official type, there's a, what is this?
Yeah,
Here.
yeah. It looks like it was just ripped off though.
I know, but this little thing is even,
Both sides, it's like that's like a seal, isn't it, that
Uh-huh.
they put on it?
I like that show,
Here's a thing that he kept his Maple Hill Cemetery stuff in.
Well, there's two deeds, and they're made out James Sunderland, Andrew Bodine, William Wells, and H.H. Castle, and then the other one is James Sunderland, H.H. Castle, and W.S. Sunderland.
Just the book, The Common Sense Medical Advisor, and you could save $1 by sending me this coupon with it.
Say, there's
the best family doctor here.
And you have that.
What's that?
Here are the tax certificate for Sunderland and Miller, December the 3rd, 1858, and another one, December the 3rd, 1858 for James Sunderland, and December 3rd, 1858 for D.W. Holderman, December 3rd, 1885 for William Sunderland.
He even kept everybody else's tax things.
And your friend Kenny?
Kennedy?
Is it
William
Kenny?
Kennedy? Yeah, I think there's a Kenny also. I think there's a Kenny who had land here. I'm not positive.
Yeah, he signed it for Kenny. Treasurer of Montgomery County.
That's where I
Yes,
saw it.
MCO.
Yeah, that was. Ooh, here's a Reed. Now, Hollingsworth isn't a name I've been familiar with, and yet there's an awful lot of Hollingsworth deeds going back and forth. And here's Patsy Compton made her mark.
I think it's most interesting how all these extracts,
Smart weeds.
smart weed or water pressure, and everything heals. And then it tells you what was in it. Down, ending up with the best French brandy. So you know what the healer was.
This is an 1827